It's our main event day in the NBA. $5 tournament on DraftKings, 100K on top. This is what DFS players dream of. And of course, the work begins as it always does here on the Splash Play channel. We're going to dig in and compare my data, in particular the projections, over to our friends at Stokastic. We'll see what one of the industry greats thinks about things. We'll see what the ownership looks like. We'll see what my top plays are and the top value plays are. We'll go game by game, take a look at all the data, all the key players, all the key matchups tonight. We'll hop over to Stokastic, run a sim without my interference. And by in this video, you know all the must plays along with my splash plays for today's slate. Let's get into it. Hope it was a good slate for you guys yesterday. I cashed most of my stuff yesterday, so I felt good about it. But as you guys saw at the data, I was not in on Desmond Bane. Just couldn't really get there projection-wise, even though I did try to. So that didn't work out so well because he fucking crushed. But also got a bunch of steals, which he has not done this year. That's always tough, but felt good about the slate, feel good about the data today. We'll see how it goes. We got chats that I want to go off on already. We got Golden State Scrub Night. That is true. Always on the big slate hump days, everybody taking off seems fishy. Colin, I would ask you, what's fishy? What you're taking off on the $5 100K DraftKings slate days because of some DFS advantage? I would encourage people when they have gambling conspiracies, and I get now more than ever with the stuff in the leagues lately, the federal investigations and all that, people getting busted, more suspicious of gambling than ever. That said, sometimes it's just NBA players, much like most people, want to take a day off. Golden State playing in Miami, on a back-to-back. That's kind of a key recipe for guys being out. And a Wednesday, not a lot of national games, so you don't have the punishment as well. But just whenever people have the gambling conspiracies, just think if you have the Guardians closers throw in games, whatever, because they know that directly impacts people betting on that, sure. But Golden State rolling guys out at 1 p.m. Eastern time on a Wednesday, well, who makes money off of that? I don't think anybody really does. Shout out to all you guys hanging out here. Appreciate you guys watching live. I feel like the Gambling Conspiracy, you're in the wrong channel if that's where your head's at. Everything that happens to me in a DFS slate or in a betting situation, it's my own losses. I feel like I feel them. I wear them like a badge of great shame, great agony, great suffering, all that. We got Nikola Jokic, top predicted guy today. Again, we're on to today's slate. 13K salary for Jokic, a man who has been a monster so far this year. Projecting well, will project better as well if Aaron Gordon is out. And actually, this is worth going up to the NBA Wowie real fast, seeing how the rate data looks, because it's fun, I think, to see guys that play incredibly well in small sample sizes. We're going to go Denver here. We're going to take off Aaron Gordon and Christian Brown. And we'll try to just go this year only. So not the biggest sample size we always talk about. We want 1,000 possessions for a rate to be stable. There's only 55 possessions. But in 55 possessions, 35% usage for Nikola Jokic with Gordon, with Brown off the court, a 53% assist rate. So even though he's losing two of his best assists, compatriots, whatever you want to call it, losing two of his key assist targets is Jokic here. He still has more than half the assists are going his way. Still rebounds well. He's shooting 74% true shooting, which is pretty crazy for a big man that does shoot some threes. 2.3 DraftKings points per minute. So for Jokic, if you get Gordon out, it looks even better. With Gordon in, I still have him for 70 fantasy points. Do I have Nikola Jokic today? I'm willing to pay this 13K. Seems like the field won't. Only 12% expected ownership for Stokastic. There are pay-up options to go to on the slate. Some of them do look kind of ugly. SGA, who hasn't played a fourth quarter in way too long, being one of those options. But Jokic, 13K, still think he's worth the price tag. And it seems like as this day goes on, more and more value is going to open up. So should be easier to play Jokic. I still don't think he's going to get to be mega chalk, but 12% expected ownership right now in Stokastic's data. I've got Jokic at 38%. Always wondered why people play if they believe they're getting scammed. Wouldn't that make you dumb? Yeah. I mean, I like playing games at the Carnival, and I know I'm probably getting ripped off in a few of those games. So, and not that I go to Cardinals. I'm saying that my weekly trips to the Carnival where I'm going to play ring toss, leaving with bags full of goldfish, I think. And not even the fun Pepperidge Farm ones, just ones that die and have probably diseases. And also are suffering, most likely living at a carnival. But it's still fun. I guess that's the principle. But yeah, I think it's also, just comes down to ultimately when you lose money in gambling, it's a lot of it's bad variance, good variance, all that stuff. But sometimes it's just, hey, you fucked up. You made a bad play. That's how it goes too. Tyrese Maxey, 31% ownership for the field. I'm getting him at 23. We've got an Embiid doubtful tag, so he's not likely to go. Paul George back out for injury management. Seems odd given that he played the last game and it's not back-to-back or anything. I guess they might have one tomorrow, actually. Just for the sake of not being uneducated here, I would like to know if that's the case. They do play the Bucks tomorrow, presumably on national TV. That's probably why Paul George is out today. All right, so that makes sense. Maybe Embiid goes tomorrow too for the same reason. But for Tyrese Maxey, those guys aren't going to be going today. That's really the main thing here. We could do another rate look here too, because why not? Sixers this year. Obviously, we haven't had a ton of Embiid, but we've had enough. Embiid, Paul George. We'll keep Oubre on because the sample size is going to be a little bit too small. I think if we take Oubre off. Max is averaging 1.4 fantasy points a minute and 571 possessions just this season. And that's a pretty good sample size. We're not 1,000, but that's about as close to it as you can get this early part of the year. In terms of Sixers overall, Drummond's averaging 1.2. Stokastic, loving him in their data projection-wise so far. Sixers look good today is really the main thing. But Maxey at his salary, I would rather play Jokic personally. I think with the ownership being much lower there, I'll take the guy that I think gets me 70 as a median outcome as opposed to, and really Jokic put up 88, I believe it was, versus Chicago, has 2 out of his last 3 games over 80 fantasy points. I'll take that shot, but I do think right now for Tyrese Maxey at this salary, 31% ownership, I think reasonable why people are getting there. Rather play more Jokic, rather play more Şengün. That's how it looks. Demetrius, I've tried to give you a few different ways to do it. I even posted a message on the channels today, so you can see the community tab if you want on YouTube. But you have to join the Discord, and then you get the sheets and the updates there as I post like, hey, updated for this guy being out, whatever. I also made a separate post on the YouTube community tab, which you should be able to see based on your membership. You can also go there too. But I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for people to get in. Most people have no issue accessing projections, but that's that. Check the YouTube community tab, please, on the channel, and you'll find it there, Demetrius. I've trying to help. Alperen Şengün, 9% sim ownership here. Fields at 7%. I like Şengün as another pivot to Maxey. With this much ownership to Maxey, again, think he's a rock solid play. No issue with him really. But just go into the upside here for Jokic and Şengün. I'd rather have those guys. I mean, Jokic in particular, if people don't want to pay 13K because we're not used to seeing that price tag, so we have projections for it, still shows Jokic as being a 5.4x value. But really, it's the case on any slate. When you have this much ownership for one guy, less for the other guys who are your pay-up alternatives, just try to flatten that out a little bit more, and I think that's generally good. Tournament logic, especially on a day for a lot of you guys where I'm sure you're putting in more entries into the large field tournament than you might normally, because it is a $5 entry fee as opposed to the usual 15 or 18. I think just getting, even if Maxey you think is the best play in the world, trying to spread that out a little bit more even than I have, that would be a good move. Everybody has problems with the YouTube thing. I don't want to make a full website, guys, because it's more work than I would like to take on right now. But like some people have no issues at all. Like people can upgrade, and some of you guys can't upgrade. I don't know. I really just use the website if you can to sign up because you pay less than like if you go through iOS. But it should be simple. Enough people have it working for them, so I don't know. But I'm sorry that there isn't like a uniform experience. One day I'll hopefully have the bandwidth to tackle that further, and that's probably not be this NBA season though. But I appreciate you guys for trying to get access. Denny Avdia. And again, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So just check the YouTube community tab, and that should be good if you don't have to do any Discord stuff. Denny Avdia, Karl Anthony Towns, Josh Giddey, all these guys in the late slate. So at this point, for Avdia, Towns, and Giddey, good plays, might be relevant on FanDuel. Nothing is coming up for me today for these guys because I'm not playing on a slate that has them. But Avdia, seemingly no Drew Holiday again. Karl Anthony Towns, you are getting Brunson back in, so I wouldn't hate jumping off the train here with the value metrics coming down, at least in terms of the DraftKings late slate pricing. Giddey, I'm always down for. He looks better with Trey Jones out. I do believe Trey Jones is a Q tag to play today. But right now, these guys aren't relevant to the slate, so we're just going to skim through them here. And if you want to see more about the games, I'll show you these guys in the game-by-game breakdown a little bit, and you can also get access to my data as it updates throughout the night. SGA has not played a fourth quarter in the last 2 games. Basically, the way it works out is that the Thunder are comfortably ahead enough. And even if they're only like 15 points ahead, they usually get 15 to 20, and they don't feel a need to bring SGA back in. That's been the case for every game lately for them. Today, OKC is at home, so maybe you got a better chance of SGA getting that fourth quarter stint. Though, actually, real fast, I think the last 2 Thunder games are on the road. Let's see, a Thunder on the road at New Orleans. SGA not playing the fourth when it was like a 16-point lead. He didn't play that one. Other game here against the Hornets, which is the game before that. Didn't play the fourth again. Thunder were up like 22. They didn't bring him back in. I know this is helpful, guys. I know this is like maybe a little more detail than you need, but this is just kind of what the process is for me as much as you. Fourth quarter here, OKC up 37. Falls a little bit. They don't bring SGA back in again. This was a home game, so the fourth quarter, they don't bring him out for like a get your flowers for the crowd, give the ticket holders something they want here. So I think for SGA, the assumption is generally going to be, because the Thunder are really good, and they are again today an 18.5-point favorite at home against Sacramento, who's out without Sabonis today. Your assumption is just that SGA doesn't get that fourth quarter run. If he were to get that run, that probably means that I would say DeRozan, Levine, Schroeder, Westbrook on the thumbnail today. Those guys having an outlier day. Westbrook, maybe a personal thing in OKC with him having full run of the castle with no Sabonis. That's the reason you play SGA, I think, is like you have a bunch of kings in a lineup, or at least 1 or 2 kings, and you're saying this game's competitive. There's no ownership. But like SGA is hard to play because they are so much better than every team they're going up against right now. Without Jalen Williams even, and without Wiggins, who's been out for a minute or two as well. Not that he matters super a bunch, but he's like great depth normally. They're just better than everybody right now, and the Kings are not the team, given the fact that they have one of the worst defenses in basketball. It is a pace-up spot for OKC, so they'll probably get even more buckets up, more clean shots up, and now they're missing their center, who's not a great defender or anything, but is a somewhat stabilizing presence there. That's why you don't expect SGA to play a lot, but if he does play a lot, it probably means that the Kings guys had really good days relative to the projections. Westbrook killing tonight. I mean, I think it's tough at that price point. He does not project for over a 5x value to me. He has averaged, I think, 1.1 or 2 fantasy points a minute without Sabonis. I put his updated rates in here before. He's put up 1.24 fantasy points a minute with Sabonis off the court this year. 25% usage, 30% assist rate. I mean, he's been the best fantasy producer on the team besides DeRozan when Sabonis hasn't played. So I get it. The issue for Westbrook is that you are playing the Thunder, and the Thunder are very, very good, and the Kings are the exact opposite of that right now, to be real about it. Anthony Edwards, 17% owned by the field. So one issue with Edwards is that basically Stokastic did not update before the show, so I had to make minutes changes myself. Jaden McDaniels is out now. Edwards will take a little bit of a bump up for not having him in. But Anthony Edwards, I think at his price tag, not a compelling play for me in a crazy way. I'd rather get all the way up to Jokic, to Maxey, to Şengün, who has the same price tag basically as Anthony Edwards. But the field's at 17%. We'll see how that moves around. Minnesota's certainly a team where it feels like Ant, Randall, palpable upsides, and having McDaniels off probably helps that a little bit more. But these guys are pretty chalky today against Washington, and I'm not getting there quite as much. So no issue with anybody ever playing against Washington, really. But Ant, I think that ownership seems more than fair at 17%. I'm only getting 6 right now. Jamal Murray getting 11%, Fields at 3. If you take Gordon out, it's going to look even better. Jamal Murray's been playing really well to start the year. It's really just him and Jokic scoring fantasy points for this team. Jonas Valanciunas off the bench, Tim Hardaway Jr. a little bit, but Cam Johnson is like functionally useless out there. And Jamal Murray's averaging 1.2 fantasy points a minute this year. It'll look even better if Gordon's out. So I like Jamal Murray's tournament option. Play him with Jokic. I think in some lines playing him in lieu of Jokic as a leverage against him. I think it all looks good. LaMelo Ball, 45 fantasy point projection. Another guy, the minutes don't look too great at 28.4 minutes projected here. 4.1% ownership expected. I got one, really. LaMelo, not a key play for me. And Jalen Brunson, 9K here, another late slate guy. He went through shoot around, so he should be back in today. The Knicks still missing OG Anunoby, so these guys look playable. Brunson, I think, also in particular for the DK late slate. Pretty interesting play. Let's sort by value here. Think Old West is back and too cheap for a motivated spot. I mean, he's almost 8K. Like, he's definitely cheap relative to when he was really good, putting up triple doubles and stuff for the Thunder back in the day. But compared to how he's played recently, I think he's really right at the number he should be. Honestly, maybe a little bit too expensive on DraftKings. I don't know if he's priced differently on FanDuel because I don't have those numbers in front of me right now. I could maybe quickly look just for the sake of knowing. All right, let's see. Here's the Stokastic boom bust tool. Westbrook, 7K on FanDuel. But you don't get the double-double bonuses. He looks a little bit underowned on FanDuel, though. 22% optimal, 20%. So there you go, FanDuel people. I think Westbrook is a better play on there. But certainly for tournaments, if like Westbrook's not going to be chalky, I think he's a good tournament play. If he were chalky, I probably would not want to play him. So Jalen Clark is the one I'm giving the most minutes to for Jaden McDaniels being out for Minnesota. Jalen Clark is not a good producer. I would really like to get better value, but if you give, what I basically did was I gave Jalen Clark McDaniels' minutes and then gave Leonard Miller, who I think will be the backup here with Clark starting for Minnesota. I then gave him the backup minutes that Clark usually has. So Leonard Miller looks like an okay value to me. Jalen Clark does as well. Comes down to the starters. These guys also, I would say, decent chance to not close the game, which is an important part of NBA DFS. In a perfect world, you get guys who start the game and close the game. At the very least, you want guys that close the game. Jalen Clark, I think he could lose minutes to some of the point guards with Conley and DiVincenzo. He could lose minutes to Naz Reid, playing him with Gobert. Gobert also doesn't close games all the time, and they can just play him. So I think there is some risk for Jalen Clark, but as a value play, I think Stokastic will probably give him a little bit less minutes, so he won't come up as much. But right now, he looks like a top value to me. Still didn't get him a ton in the sim because that data didn't update all the way. But I think he would be your best value play at 3,300. And it's worth pointing out, too, today on DraftKings, small forward is like desolate. So if Jalen Clark looks like even a decent value, he's going to come up because your best plays besides him, Kevin Durant, who's overpriced for how he's played this year and doesn't have a great matchup versus Cleveland. DeMar DeRozan, who gets a little bit of an uptick because of having no Sabonis out there, but you are playing OKC. He doesn't project super well. Jaime Jaquez, if you get Bam Adebayo out, that'll look okay. With Bam in, it would not look quite as good. RJ Barrett is one of the weaker plays for Toronto right now. DeAndre Hunter, whose price is now up from the 4,500 on DraftKings. He's now back to 6K. Moses Moody looks passable with Steph Curry out, but not great. Koulibaly, not great. Jarris Walker, not great. Peyton Watson, not great. Jalen Clark's going to come up if he starts. So shitty play, but maybe a necessary evil of the slate. Because small forward, I mean, I do these videos every Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. Not saying that's a plug, but to give you the frame of reference, I can't recall a position looking quite as bad on paper as small forward does today on DraftKings. Every other position is like, has a few guys that stand out, maybe even a bunch that stand out. Small forward, you got fucking nothing. It's bad positionality today. Leonard Miller, or Moussa Diabate, talked about him fast. I've got him pretty high at 27 fantasy points, but he's hit for me a bunch off the bench. So for Diabate, he looks good. I think Kalkbrenner as well. It's a good situation going against Indiana today for these guys. But for Diabate, another value play in a slate where we don't have any great value so far yet. Definitely not a player that I think you're locking lineups around because he's not the starter. That is still Kalkbrenner. Leonard Miller, I think he picks up minutes that Jalen Clark doesn't. This assumes that Clark is starting and then Miller's coming off the bench. He is a 3K minimum salary. Again, my minutes projection may be a little bit more aggressive, but as I mentioned, I basically have Clark and Miller splitting an entire position's minutes. But also, I would say, much like Clark, Leonard Miller probably not going to close a game no matter what. If that's the case with small forward, you take whatever KD can give you. I mean, I'm sure that's an approach some people have, and I don't think that's a bad one because he's top projected small forward. But, you know, he's not a great value metric guy at 4.5x. I would still probably take whatever the optimizer gives you, but certainly if the field ended up playing a lot of Jalen Clark, like I think may be the case, assuming that he starts in Minnesota, then just going over the top with a guy like Durant, who's going to Yeah, on his worst day, probably score 15 points more. I mean, 10 points more, let's say, than Jalen Clark's best day ever. Like, I don't think Jalen Clark has scored over 20 fantasy points this year. Kevin Durant will get that in a half, most likely, even if he doesn't pay off the value price tag. So definitely some tournament logic in there, but you got to find value somewhere else then. Jeremy Grant, late slate guy. If he plays, he looks good. He was out yesterday for Portland with an illness, late breaking one as well. So we'll see if he goes. Will Reichard should benefit here. Well, it's Reichard, right? I think it looks like Richard, but I think it's Reichard. Whatever. Will Richard, Will Dick. He's looking pretty good today because of not having Steph Curry in. I had to touch up Golden State minutes myself because Stokastic had not updated before the show. But basically, at this point, you have Steph Curry out. You might have Butler out. You might have Draymond out. If you get the Golden State scrub crew, as that first guy mentioned, play them because basically there's a ton of usage go around for a team that is playing one of the fastest-paced teams in the league in Miami. I mean, actually, it technically is the fastest-paced team in the league right now, the Miami Heat. Reed Shepherd, playing big minutes for Houston, and I do want to pull up Popcorn Machine real fast for this one. We are spending probably too much time on these first two screens, but we'll make it up somewhere. Reed Shepherd, playing good minutes off the bench. Also worth noting here, this Houston rotation is crazy short, given the fact that, like, they have some bodies they can play. But Tari Eason is out, so they shortened the rotation. Played just 8 guys last game. And then you see here Reed Shepherd playing good minutes in that first half. It looks like about 3 plus, let's say that's 9, 4. Played about 13 minutes in the first half, even more in the second half. Closed part of the game, got subbed out, didn't play in OT. They went with Adams, Jabari Smith, Kevin Durant, Şengün Önal, and Thompson. But still got 29 minutes in that game without playing OT. Reed Shepherd is like in the rotation for real. So he's been good value for me in a couple slates lately. The ceiling is not crazy high. I think he's been around 30 fantasy points for the most part lately. But I've got him at 28 today. Stokastic has him at 25.2. He's been shooting the lights out on the year. He's at like 64% true shooting. That's about 6% higher than league average. I forgot it's a guard that's mostly chucking and does also, you'll get some steals, get some assists. I like Reed Shepherd as a value play until, something better opens up potentially on the slate. Getting 3x the field right now with only 10% ownership expected. Isaiah Joe, 29% for me, coming up at 4,200 with really these spots going against the Pelicans, another shitty team recently for them. I get some of these value guys coming up more. Today you get Sacramento, who's another one of the worst defenses in basketball. So getting Isaiah Joe, getting AJ Mitchell, who is always a popular play in my data. He's missing a ton of shots lately, but they keep playing these shitty teams. And, certainly the run is there for guys like Joe, guys like AJ Mitchell, both guys around 25 to 30 minutes. There's strong plays here because anybody's going to be able to score versus the Pelicans, and it's hard to tell who gets hot and leads to a blowout. But the expectation, much like every game for the Thunder, is that they should kick the other team's ass and blow them out today at home versus Sacramento. I think I keep saying Pelicans. They played the Pelicans last game, and the Pelicans are on the brain. But they're playing Sacramento, who is as bad as the Pelicans defensively, and should get. And they're at home this time, so they should really put the beat down. It's going to be the expectation by everybody today, and certainly in the Vegas total. Keyshawn George coming up a lot for me. 13.5% ownership for the field. I got him at 33. Washington, not a great total today. They're 111 points towards the bottom half of today's slate. They're playing Minnesota as well, who is a little bit better than league average so far this year, but not a high-paced team, not a defensively weak team, even though it does get a little bit weaker with McDaniels being out. But Keyshawn George, 30 minutes. He's playing well, shooting well on the year. Think that he is a good play. In this spot at 5,900. If better values open up, it wouldn't shock me, but I think he's a little bit cheap for what the minutes are for him. Certainly, though, when the team is full strength, you got a lot of guys gunning for their own shots, like Koulibaly, like McCollum, Alex Sarr, who I believe is a Q tag still. They got guys that get shots up. So it's always a risk for a guy like Keyshawn George. Horford going to sit in the back-to-back. Their injury report's not out yet, I think, it must be out because they all had those alerts. So let's see. Because that came out after 1:30, right? Hold on. I'm trying to open this in another tab. But yeah, Horford, I assume, is out in the back-to-back. I know he's not in the data set right now. Let's see. Golden. No, they were out in the 1:30. All right. Yeah, Horford's already been marked out. Okay, so you make me question a thing that we already knew. Yes, Horford is already out, and it's on the injury report, as you can see. maybe behind the Stokastic banner here. All right. Steven Adams getting more minutes as well because of not having Tari Eason. Last time he played 27 minutes. That did include the OT. Stokastic has him for 20 minutes today on a slate that right now, even with some of the guys being ruled out, there isn't great value. Steven Adams comes up a little bit, 7% for the field. I got him at 9. Joe Val, with how much I like Jokic, if Jokic were to get in foul trouble, you get more minutes for Joe Val, and he'd probably beat out this $3,400 salary. But it is, really only 14 minutes on paper right now. So getting him at 7%, Fields at 2. The value stuff here, not great. Though I do feel like Reed Shepherd, Isaiah Joe, Diabate, like rotational guys getting real minutes, who produce pretty well per minute. Those are the kind of guys I gravitate to unless real value opens up. We're going to go game by game, but before I do that, guys, one quick ask. Please do hit that like button. Please subscribe. Again, you guys have been really helpful with it so far on this channel, as we're only less than a month into the NBA season, about to be about a month. But the channel's been growing at a rate that, frankly, I wasn't prepared for. As you saw earlier in the video, we got people trying to access projections and stuff. I'm trying to figure that out as best I can. There's a system that mostly works, unless sometimes people can't figure it out. But check out what we're doing here. I'm here every Monday to Friday at 2 p.m., taking you through the NBA slate. Saturday as well, I update my data. I do a show for Stokastic, their live before lock show. But a lot of NBA prep work goes in here for me every day. I give you guys the best edge up or the best leg up I can, get you edging right before an NBA slate. So please help me out. Hit that like button, subscribe. And check out Stokastic too if you want their data as well, their tools. A lot of great products are helping people win a lot of money this year. Their staff, the players as well. Get it 15% off with the promo code SPLASH over at Stokastic. Link in the description, or if you're watching on Twitter, on the Twitter bios, mine and the Splash Play channel, they both have links on there. And last but not least, Discord, $5 to join here. Again, most people can access the projections easily. It's not the best ad when there's people in the chat getting confused, but it is a thing that works pretty easily for a lot of folks. I see you guys every day, talk about the data. Hit me up sometimes with questions as well. I am updating, but if you just want to join and support the show, $5, please do that. And join down below. Try not to do it on iOS though if you can, because iOS is, I think, the biggest bitch of all. Anyway, we got game by game view here. Houston, this is also one of the screens you'll see. Technically the version without Stokastic data, so this version of it is what you would see when you pay. We got Houston, 118 implied points. Cleveland, 116.5 implied points. Houston on their side, really not a thing where I'm dying to get these guys a ton, but Reed Shepherd as a value play looks pretty good. As we know, the spot versus Cleveland still tough defensively. 112.8 defensive efficiency rating right here. That is a pretty big number, or a pretty, rather opposite, a low number here, but a good defensive number. So I'm trying to say. For Cleveland overall, Houston, the total's not bad. They are a really good offense, scoring 125 points per 100 possessions. Whereas opponent defense, this is it. Opponent defense does not matter very much. But this is what you see on the screen. But and this number, for people that are not familiar, this is the defensive efficiency rating of Cleveland. So that means they give up 112.8 points per 100 possessions. So basically you're seeing here right away, high powered offense, pretty tough defense. I think that's sort of what keeps things in check. But they have no Tari Eason, so I think that helps out a little bit. Alperen Şengün, nice tournament option to me if he's going to be 7% owned. Amin Thompson, we know, has big upside against high-usage ball handlers. Going against Cleveland today, you're definitely going to get that with Donovan Mitchell. So Houston, I think, fun tournament options. Reed Shepherd, under-owned to me as a value play. I would say the same thing for Steven Adams, even though he's a bit less fun of a click. Cleveland, 116.5 implied points. DeAndre Hunter coming up here because small forward is really bad on DraftKings. Like we talked about, he's not as good of a play at 4,500, or as he was at 4,500, and he did not really pay off on that slate for what it's worth, even though I still wouldn't think the pricing was some sort of conspiracy to make people play somebody that was not going to play well, as I think some portion of the internet thought with that. Hunter is one of those guys that's producing 1.01 fantasy points a minute, playing viable minutes. The issue is, I think he only played 24 in that game last time out. If another wing is playing well, Hunter is like your first guy. I'd squeeze a little bit minutes-wise, and that's not great for Hunter when his price tag is high at 6K. Evan Mobley, though, field will play at 20%. That certainly can move, depending on who we get ruled in and ruled out as this day goes on. But Mobley, I think, at his price, 8K, producing 1.2 fantasy points a minute. Mitchell's been the better producer, but Mobley's price feels a little bit easier to get to. Sam Merrill, a shooting guard at 4K. He's got upside, shooting 68% true shooting from the floor. Definitely a guy that can get up some threes, can get hot. So not a bad play against a tough Houston defense. Is probably going to do the best they can to limit Donovan Mitchell. But Cleveland really not a fun team because the Houston matchup's not great. Pace down and a tough defense. But because the prices here are not bad, I'm definitely getting more Hunter than I would like. Small forward. Again, that positionality making that a thing. Sam Merrill is a value. Like, we want better value to open up so I don't have to play Sam Merrill. That's how I feel about that. Toronto 118 implied points. Toronto is the same team. We'll make up some time here. Same team they are in every slate. These guys all project decently. Scotty Barnes looks the best at 8,500. He's producing 1.3 fantasy points a minute. Everybody else hovering around 1 fantasy points a minute and shooting average or a little bit better than it, besides Pirtle, who's a big man, so his shots should be a little bit more efficient. But really for Toronto here, they're playing Philadelphia, a team that's good enough to be competitive, but not so good defensively. They're going to impede them meaningfully. So I think Barnes, a good play here. Ingram, I could see the tournament upside. Barrett, tough value metrics, 4.4x value for me at 6,900. But I think all these guys, if they were to make a tournament-winning lineup tonight, it wouldn't shock me because this is what happens really frequently for Toronto lately. Barnes making it, Ingram making it, quickly making it, not so much Barrett. Pirtle's made it lately. These guys are playing well. They just, like, it's too competitive on paper for touches right now with a lot of high-usage guys who do a little bit of everything. Philadelphia on their side with no Embiid, with no Paul George. Things looking pretty good for Maxey, Drummond. Quentin Grimes going to be owned. Edgecombe going to be owned. I'm getting 23% Maxey, which is a little bit under the field. Same thing for Drummond, a little bit under his ownership at 41%. Edgecombe, I'm getting at 30. The field's at 27. He's not been a factor for me in a while because the minutes are not great for him, and he's really regressed meaningfully. In true shooting here, 51% is so much under league average at 58% and change. But that said, Drummond, I think, is a chalk play. Got to think that's going to come down a little bit with the stuff opening up. As the slate opens up, again, value's going to open up because the guy's getting rolled out. We know it's going to happen on a Wednesday NBA slate / every NBA slate, no matter what day it is. But Drummond's been playing well. He also played like just shy of 39 minutes last game. So he's, with Adem Bona out at the very least, he's guaranteed a good amount of run. He's playing closing time lately. And the matchup here going against Pirtle kind of seems like one where it should play into what Drummond does best theoretically. He's still not as good of a producer as he used to be at only 1.08 fantasy points minute on the year. But as you saw when we looked at the NBA Wowie before, he's putting up about 1.2 with Embiid and Paul George off this year. So I think Drummond, a solid play at 6,200, even though 41% ownership feels a little bit heavy for me. Philadelphia, because the guys are missing, definitely in play. Maxey's ownership feels really chalky. Again, I'd rather split that amongst some of the other pay-up options. Charlotte, getting a lot here of Moussa Diabate as a value, getting Kalkbrenner as well. Would only want to play one of those guys. They might overlap a minute or two, but for the most part, it's a direct backup situation for the Charlotte Bigs. Colin Sexton, 5,400, coming up a little bit because there's really isn't that great mid-tier value on the slate right now, or really great pay down, super cheap value either. Miles Bridges, I'm not getting to. He's really not playing super well this year with Brandon Miller off and LaMelo on. LaMelo gets the biggest upticks in usage and assist rate for not having Brandon Miller out there. Bridges kind of mix against the background more. I know the results have been there lately. Like, the rates are not super awesome for him with Con Knippel doing a lot more, I think, than I would have thought on paper. Center is really the thing for me as your semi-value options. 4,500 for Kalkbrenner, 4,400 for Diabate. Neither looking super chalky, but I'm getting Diabate 3x the field and Kalkbrenner basically 2x the field. Indiana here. Got 118 implied points and nothing popping up because of having Matherin back in. Siakam still way too expensive. He's been really underplaying that projection lately. Price tag's coming down a little bit to 9,300, but I think at this point he needs to be like 85 to 9K to start being playable again. Isaiah Jackson, I believe, went nuts last game for Indiana. Let me just confirm that. So we all know time flies when you're having fun in every NBA slate. Isaiah Jackson, 16 points, 15 peripherals, played 27 minutes. He took the starting job back from Tony Bradley, and that helped him out a good amount. I think it's possible Isaiah Jackson could be a much better play at this point. These minutes might be a little bit low, but he has to play well to keep the minutes. Fields at 17. I'm at 9. I would like to up that number because Isaiah Jackson's always been a good producer. But he's one of those guys where the minutes have been really insecure this year. If there's any security to them now, like I would hope with him starting that last game and playing well, I think at 4,200, he's a little bit cheap. Definitely to me should be more flattened out ownership with Jackson and the two Hornets bigs that we just talked about with Kalkbrenner and Diabate. Golden State, I tried my best to do the minutes with Steph Curry out. Pajemski really doesn't gain enough rate-wise, even going back to last year with Steph Curry out and Kuminga. He feels like a guy, if you get Butler out and Draymond, then Pajemski will come up. With Butler in, though, I don't think Pajemski looks like a great play. I only have him for 0.92 fantasy points a minute. Butler looks great, though, getting him about 5x the field, a little bit less than that. Right now, it is a revenge game for Jimmy Butler back in Miami, but also Jimmy Butler big time in this game. Miami kicking their ass. Butler not really showing up here. I don't want to go nuts on Butler ownership because I do think there's a chance that that could be how this game goes. It is a back-to-back for Golden State. Butler Q-tag, Draymond Q-tag. These are information items that we need to know. This game tonight tips off at 7:30. So hopefully you know it early enough in the slate. You want to keep flexibility for this one. And any player who is like looking good now, if they're not starting, if they're coming off the bench, like I don't know who would come up as a value. Let's say Will Reichard like ends up coming off the bench. You expect him to start, and he should start. But if he came off the bench, like downgrade him immediately. And pivot to whoever's starting for that team is basically the way you want to handle things. Whenever injury stuff breaks, especially if it breaks after lock. Miami, nothing looking that good with Bam Adebayo back in. These guys are priced for life without Bam Adebayo. If Adebayo is out, I think the situation's going to look better for Powell, Hawkes, Wiggins. Pele Larson still playable at 4,100. Mitchell, Davion Mitchell, that is, not loving him. Ware, unplayable with Bam Adebayo back in. Need to know that news item as well. So both sides of the equation, really important to know what's going on. Sacramento, again, it seems like some people in chat want to play Russ today. He was the first guy I looked at on the slate and put him on the thumbnail before projections were done this morning. So I certainly had thoughts about him. The issue is that he is playing OKC. I have Westbrook putting up 1.2 fantasy points a minute. He's producing well fantasy-wise with 1.1 on the year. But really, it's the matchup. It's the total not being good. It's the risk of not playing a fourth quarter because the Thunder are going to be up huge. But certainly you want to play the revenge narrative for Westbrook. You can. That's how that goes. Pivoted to Bronny when he started on Saturday. Asked me how that went. Well, there is still, a little bit of a filter, putting a, detective, not a microscope. What is the thing? Magnifying glass. Put a magnifying glass, some of those plays. Bronny's been terrible on the year. And not all starters are guaranteed starter minutes. So that's still a part of it. But there was a difference between a starter and a guy not starting generally. And usually the intention is like if Bronny had gotten some shots up, made them, he would have played more minutes. But there were a couple plays out there. I think there was some highlights floating around of like Luka looking visibly frustrated with him, where it was like Bronny wide open for a corner three. He passes it up. If he gets hot, he plays more minutes. If he does shit like that, he gets played off the court. So that's the yin and yang of a guy being a starter. But yeah, that's fair to say though. Starters are not guaranteed minutes. It's just like they're getting the best run out to be good. And sometimes it works the other way too, where a guy's a high usage guy normally is like a sixth man. Then he starts and he's with the guys who actually get shots up, and he becomes a much worse play because he just kind of gets drowned under that. So yeah, there's always nuance to basketball lineup shit. Sacramento though should look better with Sabonis out. They don't, so I don't really know what you want here. Drew Eubanks, if he were starting, 4,200, another one of those value centers that looks decent, but that's how it goes. I would still say it's not a bad play. Anytime you can pivot to a low-owned starter, it's worth it. It's just, he is one of the worst producers in the NBA, unfortunately. I would love to see him get better. I think he's now settling into what his fate as an NBA player is. Like, he has to get better at 3-and-D, and JJ Redick has said that. But, if you're a 3-and-D guy, you have to actually shoot the threes. That's a tough part. OKC, 125.5 implied. Massive favorites here at that 18.5 points at home. SGA, again, feels unplayable unless you're going to take a bunch of Kings and hope that they keep it competitive somehow into the fourth quarter. And you really have to be like within 10 points, it seems like, for OKC to bring him back out in the fourth quarter. But SGA going to be unplayed at 4.5% ownership. I think still right now with this total being what it is, fading SGA seems like the move generally, unless you're playing 150, which you can on this $5 slate. So maybe you want to get some exposure no matter what. Hartenstein looks decent, should kill against a Kings team that's probably going to brick a lot of shots against this quality defense they're going against. A Thunder defense, I'll point out here, you can see that the Thunder facing a Kings defense that gives up 121.3 points per 100. Thunder giving up 105, which I believe is like 6 points better than whoever's number two. Thunder defense is like shutting shit down, and the Kings are not a team that's going to be taking a ton of efficient shots. So that's why this game is kind of expected to go the way that it is. Obviously, total is what it is as well. Kind of surprised, honestly, it's not like 20, but 18 and a half, about as high as we're going to get for a team favored at home. But anyway, Hartenstein going against a team that misses a lot of shots. He could rack up rebounds potentially. AJ Mitchell in a blowout-y kind of game should make more shots than he does. Every game, I feel like I say that, but he got up 14 shots last game. The attempts are there. The assist upside is theoretically there. Still, he's averaged 1.05 fantasy points a minute, but he's been shooting pretty poorly with this role that's really like a gift from the gods. He gets as much usage as he does, the amount of assist upside that he gets, and he's kind of underperforming with it every slate. But I haven't projected for 35 today, so I'll get some AJ Mitchell. Certainly, if you're using my data today, bump AJ Mitchell down if you want to get a little more comfortable with that. Isaiah Joe, another guy, should benefit from a shitty defense here. If he gets hot from three, he could break a slate at 4,200. And that's that for the Thunder. Washington, Keyshawn George, the only one coming up for me meaningfully. Alex Sarr, I'd never be mad at either. But Keyshawn George, I'm getting more than 2x the field. Alex Sarr, I like a lot on slates today, though. This matchup versus Minnesota, maybe not the ideal one going against Gobert. But, French versus French matchup. If Sarr goes, he's a Q tag, I believe, right now. Maybe the motivation gets there a little bit higher for him to go off against the countrymen. That is like a weird international thing that I don't care about narratives too much, but that is a narrative that I'll say out loud, so it matters this much in my brain. But Sarr, 20% owned by the field, feels like more than enough. He projects decently, but Stokastic has him as a smash play today relative to me. They've got him about 3 fantasy points higher than I do. And then Keyshawn George, good play, as we talked about. Minnesota, really high total for them with 127.5 implied points. They are facing Washington. They're down Jaden McDaniels, so things will look a little bit cleaner when Stokastic updates their data. As I mentioned earlier, I gave Jalen Clark the McDaniels minutes, then gave Leonard Miller the Clark minutes. That's how I think it's going to go, but they'll probably knock down Clark's minutes a little bit. If Clark starts, though, I think he's one of your better values on the slate. He's an awful producer on the year with 0.7 fantasy points a minute, and that's me rounding up. But, there are opportunities to go around with McDaniels off the court. I do think, though, no matter what, Clark, Leonard Miller, these guys very unlikely to close the game because they'll probably go with Naz Reid or double guards, something like that. Gobert on top of it. Bagley, if Sarr sits, yeah, I would take that shot. At 3,100, I think you'd have to. Tough matchup. You then also will have Bagley with Vucevic coming off the bench as the pivot point, potentially. I think Bagley would become your mega chalk. Vucevic would be your pivot to try to get less owned and maybe jump the field. But that's it. If Sarr didn't go, I think Sarr will go. I feel like because of the French thing again. Not to, as we know, the French love battle. That's what we always say. But yeah, I really think that he probably will try to go because these guys the French team is always really competitive and close knit, all that stuff. But yes, if Sarr didn't go, that's a great call. Bagley would be very interesting, very chalky. Denver, 124.5 implied. Jokic going to beat a lot of lineups for me today. Right now, getting more than 3x the field. If you gave me in half my lineups, even more than that, I would take it. I don't think people are used to paying $13K for a player, but he deserves it entirely. I have Jokic today projected for 2.1 fantasy points. Jokic at 1.9 for the year. He is great, and it'll only get better if Aaron Gordon gets rolled out. As it is, though, I'm getting Murray at 11%, Gordon at 13%, Peyton Watson at 19%. Cam Johnson has been a total non-entity this year. He can't shoot right now. He's kind of playing statistically like he's got the yips. If Gordon's out, there's all the opportunity in the world for Cam Johnson to get going. You still do have Brown out as well. But I think Jokic, Murray, those guys looking good right now. They'll look a lot better if you get Gordon out. And Gordon was a downgrade, so I think you might get Gordon out today. Vucevic, close blowout over Bagley. I mean, it's mostly that Bagley will be the mega chalk, so you play Vucevic if you want to get less owned, in a lineup where you feel like you're pretty chalky elsewhere. I wouldn't predict the blowout part of it, but certainly you can. New Orleans here, Zion, questionable again. Doesn't mean he'll play. If he does play, everybody looks a little bit worse. If he doesn't play, then Trey Murphy will look okay. Derek Queen will look better. He's still playable to me with 15% of my top 150 owning him. Field at 18. Jeremiah Fears, 11%. Field at 9. Yeah, I think for how this looks for New Orleans, it's a tough total here. Zion being in, the price tags don't really give you a ton of wiggle room on that. Trey Murphy, I think, entirely unplayable if Zion goes. But if Zion's out, going Queens, going Fears, all that. I have Mitchell 20% higher than Vegas. I get trying to find someone you think will get off, but 20% off the. You can play however you want. I use my data and it just comes up how it comes up. I certainly wouldn't like put AJ Mitchell in every lineup, but the point of having your own data set is that you want things to be unique because you know what's going into the underlying stuff. If you want to follow the market stuff, just use market projections. So I'm not sure. I feel like Deeks, you've been like toxic in the Stokastic chat before. I'm not really sure why. You can do whatever you want with what you play. That's what I encourage everybody to do here. I also can do the same with my data. But feel free to play Mitchell a little bit and don't go crazy on it. If you want to play him because he looks good in my data, you can play him in one lineup today out of your 150 if you're doing that. Follow your heart. Do I think the market? I understand, Deeks. I don't really care. I don't. Your opinion. I'm going to give you a little lap here because I don't really like you, and I've said this a bunch of times. I really don't want to do shows trying to appeal to people I don't like, but I understand your takes. The market pricing is great. Do what you want to do with your data. I make my own data, and I'm pretty cool originating my own data. But yes, the market pricing is certainly the thing you can reflect. That happens in other ways with Vegas pricing and all that. New York here, late slate. If you want to see it, you can. 119 implied points. Dallas 111.5. Cooper Flag downgraded. Somebody else is downgraded here too. Oh, it was Caleb Martin downgraded for illness. If these guys are out, it matters because AD is out too. The usage would be looking better for PJ Washington, for Najee Marshall, Brandon Williams, the key rotational guys here. But basically, Flag being out. He's not producing a ton, but he's producing enough that it does matter at this point. It's like the guy, we come here for another guy's view on things. That's fair. And I think that's what I try to say enough times at the show. But it's also like the guy yesterday going, hey, why don't you just use the optimizer part of the single lineup build? Like, no, you're theoretically watching the show because you want to understand what I'm doing on a slate. I encourage you guys really follow market data as much as possible. Follow Stokastic data over my own. Like, I can't be more clear about these things. If you're here, though, I presume you care about my data. And a lot of you guys are here every day. So that Deegs guy, though, is just like a fucking cunt in every chat. And it's like, I'm probably more aware of chatters than other streamers because I actually do read things and all of that. So, like, if you're going to be a cunt to me on streams and then come here and try to make a point, I just don't really care. I think that's ultimately what it is. If you're going to be a paying member, then I'll listen. We got Chicago here with 123.5 implied points. Portland 121. Drew Holiday out here means that Avdia looks better. Sharp looks better. All that stuff. Really, for Chicago on their side, they're pretty aggressively priced. Trey Jones not in the data set. Giddey's still not popping up meaningfully for me with the late slate pricing. But I do love Giddey overall. You take Trey Jones out. It looks better. If Trey Jones is in, though, I think Giddey would get meaningfully affected enough. With Kobe White as well in. Things are not quite the same situation for Chicago. They're a better team because of having Kobe White. They're not a better fantasy player right now because of having Kobe White in. And for what it's worth, there's just a 5-minute timeout. It's just, like he could be here. It's just like I don't care about his need to like whatever. I don't like it's weird. People creep me out. Whenever I'm creeped out by somebody online, I've got like a 99% hit rate on it. But let's run a sim here with Stokastic data. We've seen what I have for it. Have they updated? Because it's going to be an important part. All right, they have not updated. So this is going to be data that still has Steph Curry in, that still has Jaden McDaniels in. It's not going to be as helpful as I would have wanted. We'll still run it here for you guys. But if you get any value to this video, even if it is, again, even if it's just you're going to do things the market tells you instead of what I'm saying, please, by all means. But still, if you got value, hit the like button, subscribe. I am here Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. doing the work as best as I can, the way that I want to play, much like all of us want to do. We want to play these games the way that we enjoy, the way that sparks joy for me. For me, that's building my own data, letting my data be different from market pricing, not just doing the same thing that a million people using Stokastic data or ETR data or run the sims or whatever, Saber sim. Like those are all great tools. Please feel free to use those part of your process. It'll help you out a bunch. For me though, this is what I get joy out of it, as you could tell right now. But please do hit the like button, subscribe. I'm doing the work here as best I can every day, Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. And of course, check out Stokastic too. Get 15% off. It's the only deal they have going right now for NBA, and probably the only one they have for NBA for a while. I'm sure they'll have some for NFL for Thanksgiving. But please do click the link down below. Get 15% off. That's all their data, all their Sims products. You want to get that sweet market projection for yourself? You can go do that with one of the best data providers to help people win a lot of money on every slate. So link in the description. Use the promo code SPLASH over there, and that'll do it for you. I don't know, sometimes people do not grasp the idea of this, how one person sees the data. No one has the science. Take info and figure out what you want to do. That's right. And Steven watches a lot of content. He knows. I'm sure you don't take everybody at gospel, nor should you. But ultimately, I think I show my work on screen as much as anybody besides Josh Engelman, my good friend, in the mornings on Stokastic shows. So, it's all I can do here. It's explain how I get the points, all that. Do whatever is going to make joy, what's going to spark joy for you guys always. We are having so much fucking fun. Is Melo still in the minutes limit? I think the assumption is that he's probably not getting above 30. Yeah. Stokastic has him for like 29 minutes today. So does feel somewhat capped. All right. We got our top ROI lineup right now. And again, this is before a bunch of guys getting ruled out. So this is probably going to move. We got Reed Shepard, Con Knipple, Jarris Walker, Miles Bridges, Andre Drummond, Isaiah Joe, Evan Mobley, Isaiah Hartenstein. Gotta say, love Reed Shepard. A lot of these guys, Andre Drummond, I totally get. Isaiah Joe was coming up a good amount for me. Not the kind of lineup I would build, but we'll see how things move when they do update for the various players that have been ruled out. Reed Shepard at number 2 again. VJ Edgecombe makes this one. Jaden McDaniels is not in, so throw this one out. Miles Bridges, Andre Drummond, Andre the Drummond. Josh Okogie, who is getting meaningful minutes for that 8-man Houston rotation. Julius Randle, Alex Sarr makes this one. Number 3, Reed Shepard again. VJ Edgecombe again. Jarris Walker again. Miles Bridges again. This is a lot of Miles Bridges up top. Alperen Sengun, no issue with that. Isaiah Joe, Naz Reid, Isaiah Hartenstein. I will say there's no Jokic coming up here. I think maybe Stokastic might want better value to open up to pay for that 13K Jokic. Number 4, Reed Shepard, VJ Edgecombe again. Jaden McDaniels again. He's not in the slate. Let me just skip the McDaniels ones. Reed Shepard, VJ Edgecombe, DeAndre Hunter, Peyton Watson, Andre Drummond, Tyrese Maxey, Naz Reid, Alex Sarr, and then another one with Jaden McDaniels have been a great tournament play today, apparently. And here's our last one without Jaden McDaniels. We got Reed Shepard, Keyshawn George, Peyton Watson, Mikal Bridges, Andre Drummond, Russell Westbrook, Naz Reid, Alex Sarr. Westbrook makes that lineup. There we go. Hope that thumbnail this is me looking up to the heavens. I hope that thumbnail's proud of Russell Westbrook. 3v3s for all the ROI. So it seems. I feel like that honestly is usually how the Stokastic sim looks before the data gets a little bit cleaner from the actives and all that. But you're getting what you're getting. Do I think Bam's playing? I got no lean on that right now. He's in the data set. That's all I would say, but who knows? Top ROI players according to Stokastic. We got Reed Shepard, technically your only positive ROI player on the slate. Yeah, McDaniels is out today. So my assumption is that Jalen Clark gets the most minutes, but that's how it goes. Reed Shepard, 1.4% ROI right now for him. Only positive ROI player on the slate. As I mentioned, he's playing meaningful minutes. He is closing games or getting most of closing minutes and playing fourth quarter run. Like he's in the rotation for real. Cleveland is a tough enough defense. You can make the case for Reed Shepard. He's running up, gets a true test here of whatever he can do off the bench. But I think at his price tag right now, there really isn't great value on the slate that projects well and produces well per minute. So Reed Shepard, I'm with this one. Andre Drummond at number 2, even though it's a negative number, that doesn't matter. We're looking for the directional accuracy of the sim here. And Drummond is at number 2 as a player that's really playing a shitload of minutes for Philadelphia lately. Closing games, getting just shy of 40 minutes of run. Dembona being out has been helpful for Drummond as well. Drew Peterson here, 3K salary. He's your number 3 ROI guy. Not somebody I would have thought matters, but if I had to guess, the 3K salary allows you to cram in the guys with massive ceilings around him. And that is something that matters a lot on every slate. Even Michael Porter Jr. the other day, a guy who hit, or I guess yesterday, as Mega Chalk, it was because basically like he scored enough fantasy points. He didn't have to hit the crazy ceiling. You just needed to get the nuts around that. That was what most of the top lineups across tournaments had. So it's important to keep that in mind for NBA DFS, like, because that's something notice with the Aaron Fox lineups as well, where like he obviously didn't have enough of the ceiling to get there, but there were still top lineups that had Fox and Porter Jr. because those guys hit enough of a score that you were able to spike guys around them and maybe take enough shots on goal with like lineups that included those guys that you then got different combos of like players with big upside around them. So I don't know if that's like a good way to explain that, but NBA DFS, sometimes it's just about having lineups that allow you to get the guys that really have the massive ceiling at lower ownership around the super chalk in some of the lineups. We got Isaiah Jackson, -7%. -8% for VJ Edgecombe here. So your top 5, Shepard, Drummond, Drew Peterson, Isaiah Jackson, VJ Edgecombe, Naz Reid, not too far off. Pirtle, not too far off. Definitely a big mix of guys here. Let's see. I don't tamp down projections to match the market, correct? I mean, I use Vegas totals off a baseline, but no, like I build things off of per 100 possession numbers. I adjust rates based upon whatever sample size I feel comfortable with for the players that are off, injured, things like that. Sometimes I also won't touch rates because I feel like the projection for me looks close enough to what I think it should be. It's not perfect science. I mean, you watch Josh's show, he adjusts usage and stuff way more than I thought. Because I feel like it should be mostly based upon like a rolling, you sweep in a bunch of data for the team, stuff like that kind of stuff. But you know, it's different processes. They all land on different things, but ultimately median projections are still within, you know, relative range. And here's Deegs explaining here, genuine comment about a projection that you sell. No toxicity, just a comment. Well, it's mostly because you've been a dick before, Deegs, but fair enough. We could start over again, but you, like, I've noticed you being an asshole before. So when you've been an asshole before and I see it, you're being an asshole again, kind of, or feeling like an asshole, you don't get the benefit of the doubt here, but you're back in, so let's make it work. All right, your top owned players right now in Stokastic data again before, stuff like Golden State, Jaden McDaniels being ruled out. You're getting Andre Drummond at 79%, Fields at 37%. So I think that's going to change with just how a slate evolves. The mega chalk of the afternoon in Stokastic data, I feel like it's tamped down as the day goes on. For Andre Drummond right here, he's super chalky and Stokastic wants you to get more. And even if better plays pop up or higher owned plays pop up, sometimes just playing the guy that looked good in the morning before things got crazy, it could pay off more than it might seem. Sometimes it could also be terrible, like Jalen Suggs the other day. Yeah, it is what it is. Naz Reid, 47% exposure, and Stokastic top 150 with no interference from my data here. Naz Reid at 27. So I think for Naz Reid, he is a guy that I know Tom, the CEO, won with on the slate the day before last. Playing off the bench, there's always opportunities for him to be good enough and earn more minutes. So for Naz Reid, I think he's the kind of player in tournaments that Stokastic likes in their data. But he's going to be chalky for the field too. 27% is not unowned. VJ Edgecombe, been pretty bad lately, but the minutes should be there more. No Paul George today, no Embiid, for whatever that helps out the overall rotation. But Edgecombe, 46% exposure in Stokastic's top 150. Fields at 27. They've got him pretty well projected at 33. A little bit lower on Edgecombe, but I think he does work at shooting guard, and the price tag's not awful. Reed Shepard, 11% exposure. For the field, Stokastic wants to get 39. As I mentioned, Reed Shepard, Diabate / Kalkbrenner. These are the plays that, to me, when we don't have really good value, and like I think Jalen Clark's could be an okay value. We'll see how it looks, assuming that he starts. But I think for Reed Shepard right now, Diabate, those guys look really good because they're playing real minutes off the bench, and they're priced enough to be a value technically. Julius Randle, your 5th highest owned guy. And that's that. 37% Fields at 36. Nothing noteworthy here, but if Stokastic liked Randle with McDaniels in the data set already, they might like him even more. And that might be honestly just the sim embracing some of the variants of the matchup versus Washington, but Randle, chalky play, and they're at least with the field on it. Highest leverage plays. Andre Drummond, 42% more than the field. Reed Shepard, 28%. VJ Edgecombe, 19% more. Naz Reid, 19% more. All guys we've talked about already. Isaiah Jackson, who did play really well getting the start last time for Indiana. Tony Bradley back off the bench. Jackson, you're getting in 1/3 of lineups here, which is about 16% more in the field. And negative leverage plays. Tyrese Maxey, negative 18% leverage. So where are they on Jokic? I feel like Jokic did not come up at all. They're dead with the field on Jokic. LaMelo. Not really playing any LaMelo. Who are they paying up for then? Fading Maxey by a little. I mean, fading Maxey by a lot. Fading Jokic by a little. Fading SGA meaningfully. Fading Şengün. Fading LaMelo. Close to the field on Donovan Mitchell, but fading him. I don't know where Stokastic is spending the money on. So Stokastic is not paying up at all in this previous data set. They're just taking Miles Bridges a lot. I know, and Evan Mobley too, and Julius Randle. I wonder if that's going to change. I think it will, but it was weird to know. Meaningful fades on all the pay up options on the slate for Stokastic data. Derek Queen, 13% less than the field, only 5% exposure. And Stokastic's top 150. Quentin Grimes, negative 9% leverage here. He's only an 8% of lineups, Fields at 17. Davion Mitchell, negative 8% leverage, barely playing him. And they don't like Kalkbrenner either. Negative 7.5% leverage on him, only 2.7% exposure. Well, we'll build the sim here, I guess. We'll do a single lineup sim real fast. Though, is there really a point to doing this? Here, let me, oh shit, I didn't mean to close the screen entirely. I meant to switch over to it and think about if I actually want to build it, because it's not going to come out well with Stokastic not having updated data. Let's refresh. Anything new? Mad respect. You could be doing anything else, but you're here helping us become better DFS players. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I mean, ultimately, I'm just sharing my takes of the slate, so that's what we're doing here. And I love that Spags is married, but treats us like the bad relationships of the past. I'm not willing to keep getting hurt by it. It's true. It's true. I feel like I've done content now professionally for, I mean, like actually making money from it, not counting like my blogs in college and stuff. Like 18 years. So I've got a pretty big callus at this point too. People being mean to me. I just don't need it, you know? All right, let's build one lineup here. I'm putting Jokic in first. Gonna try to remember the guys that are not gonna look good in Stokastic data because of players not being ruled out. Let me sort here on my other sheet for a point guard. My God. It's gonna be tough to build with Jokic in. I'm going to go Reed Shepherd. We know the sim is not opposed to Reed Shepherd, and he is definitely a splash play of the day for me. Again, assuming better value doesn't open up, but even if it does, I think Reed Shepherd feels pretty solid to me. Shooting guard. Should I put AJ Mitchell in here? But I am above market on him, so I don't love that. Will Reichard as a value, he looks good now. He's going to look better when we get guys ruled out. So I think this one fits. This is not updated again for Steph Curry and the crew being out for the Warriors. But Will Reichard again will look good no matter what. And if it's Will Richard, I apologize. I feel like I've heard Reichard and it's stuck in my brain now. Small forward here. I think again, if the data were updated for the Warriors being out, Moody might be a play. Butler might be a play. But we're not doing that here. Small forward is so fucking bad. Like, none of these guys look good. I'll go DeAndre Hunter. We're going back to the well here. Moody, again, Moody I wouldn't mind. Let's put Moody in, because Moody will, again, look better when they take Steph Curry out of the data. So let's go with this. So we got two Warriors. Basically building a team that kind of assumes that the Warriors are not playing today. The key Warriors, rather. Power forward. I think it's Randall. Aaron Gordon, I'm above the field on. Butler, I'm definitely above the field on in the new data. But let me go Randall. We got 4,600 left for our last three spots. We really need value at this point. God, this is so tough. Edgecombe is 6K. I don't think the sim's going to hate him. Let's put in Edgecombe. Really need to save money now on somebody. Fuck. I'm going to try Diabate at utility. That means I need a 3,500 guy. This is awful. Grady Dick, Achua, Kispert. Gowans. I mean, I do think Jalen Clark, I absolutely see why he's going to come up. I'm going to go Jalen Clark here. Get another guy that's going to look better in the data when they update. The team, Reed Shepherd, Will Richard / Reichard, Moses Moody, Julius Randle, positive ROI, I'm going to take it. Julius Randle, Nikola Jokic, VJ Edgecombe, Jalen Clark, Moussa Diabate. Positive ROI still counts. It's all going to change anyway because there's no Golden State guys out. Watched you for nearly a decade, even if I don't agree. Help me see things that I may not. I appreciate that. Thank you for saying the kind words, Rick, and for being a member here. A problem with the single lineup sim is that until players are taken out, it won't sim well, but worth doing to solve. Yeah, I think that's it. You guys got to read on how I would like to build a lineup. Again, I want to get Jokic in if I can, but it is tough. It is tough, especially if you're paying for like a Randall tier guy with that. It's tough. But I'll give you guys my splash plays for the day with, updated stuff as of 3 p.m. Eastern. Before I do that, guys, one last ask. Please do hit the like button, subscribe no matter what. Again, I'm showing you guys my work. When you ask me stuff, I try to explain it as best I can. I tell you what I'm putting into my data, how I view things. Hopefully that adds value. Again, please play whatever you want. Definitely follow stuff like Stokastic data more because that's going to get you more reliable every day, even if I love my own data. But gamble how you want, guys. Just be smart about it. Be smart about your bankrolls. We always talk about that here, the NFL, NBA crossover time of year especially. Check out Stokastic. Again, you want that great industry data to help people win money every single day across every single slate. Stokastic Sims, all the cheap stuff, all the expensive stuff. It's all 15% off with the promo code SPLASH. So take advantage of that if you can. This is my only stream today. So, I can't, I guess I wouldn't show this on Stokastic anyway. But, go check it out right now because that'd be great. And Discord, $5 to join there. If you want my data, join the Squirt Squad tiers down below. The VIP tier gets you exportable projections. The main Squirt Squad tier gets you the matchup sheet that you see here on screen, minus the proprietary Stokastic data. So check it out here, and just $5 to support the show here. Get into the Discord, talk ball. If you want to really debate me on my data, you can do that in the Discord because at least then I'm getting paid for it. So splash plays the day. Assuming that he starts, I think Jalen Clark is a value at 3,300. To me, would be a splash play of the day. Not a very exciting one, but on this slate with small forward being as bad as it is on DraftKings, I think you just got to play something, and he is something. Assuming that no better value opens up, Moussa Diabate, I think is a value play, looks good. Will Richard / Reichard / whatever, I think is only going to look better as more Warriors potentially get ruled out today. Reed Shepard is a value. Diabate, I will claim as my own as well as a value. Isaiah Joe is a value. Get entirely possible better value opens up, but as of right now, these guys look like some of the best ones. And I think really using that value to pay for Jokic, I feel pretty strongly about that. Besides him, I don't mind Şengün, but I really would rather play Jokic. Yeah, Jimmy Butler, if he goes tonight, I think would be a play for me. Keyshawn George. Yeah, that's basically it, guys. But pay attention to injuries. You guys know that by now. Most important part of NBA is updating for this stuff, pivoting down off of guys if they're not starting for some reason, especially if they're ruled out. Then just really pivot off of those guys pretty hard. Make sure to gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here on this channel. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the channel at SplashPlay Bets on YouTube, at SplashPlayPod on Twitter. You'll get all my content funneling through there. And I will see you guys again tomorrow. So tomorrow, I'll be on the Stokastic Morning NFL Strategy Show for the Showdown. That'll have my Splash Play Pod version of things at 12, 2 p.m. NBA. That is the schedule for tomorrow, so come join me on there. And shout out to all you guys hanging out, even the guys that want to, prod me a little bit. I'm here for it. Just let's be kind to the delicate genius here. But I appreciate you guys being here. I'll catch you guys again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck, and bye bye.